Hello and welcome. Oh, I have such a treat for you today. This is an episode that you do not want to miss. So sit tight because I have a very special guest today. Her name is Jenn Kautsch, and she is the founder and creator of the Sober Sis community. I bet you've heard about it. It is her passion and life's calling to create a space where women can renegotiate their relationship with alcohol, but without labels and judgment and shame and all that stuff. So you are going to just so enjoy this because you're just going to drink it in, pardon the pun, and you'll never be the same. She coaches women who feel stuck in that gray area, which I know she'll talk about a little bit more on the drinking spectrum. And she helps women to get off of that autopilot of Wine-30. Have you been there? And that mindless sipping through the evening. She's all about holistic health, which is just like, it just pushes all my buttons, everything she's about. And she promotes freedom from that detox to retox cycle of sipping. Okay. So sharing through her personal faith, her understanding of science, okay, and her ability to facilitate connection. And that's what you'll see about her, not only today, but when you go to her Instagram and hang out. Lives are being changed. Every day, women are becoming more fully alive. I'll sign up for that, and more present in their amazing lives. Since she kicked off Sober Sis in 2018, more than 200,000 women have downloaded her free Happy Hour Survival Guide. You might want to do that today. And over 30,000 have participated in her 21-day reset challenge. Wow. And those numbers are growing. And that's why we're here today, to just see those numbers just even go. I know this is only the beginning for Jenn. We want to get the message out. And so her heart and passion, and you'll see this about her too, is to nurture a real sisterhood of support so you're not alone. She is a motivational speaker and the author of Look Alive Sis, a book that she published last year. And it's a compilation of 40 daily meditations, super digestible nuggets of gold from her journey to inspire, encourage, and equip you as you perhaps joining us today are reconsidering your relationship to Wine-30 and our alcohol infused culture. So join me in welcoming Jenn to the stage. Jenn, thanks for being
Wow.
here.
Wow, Denise. You give a great intro to a girl, and I really appreciate you having me. And I really appreciate your heart behind wanting to get the message out. That's just one of really hope and freedom and empowerment.
Oh, well, you are so welcome, and it is a joy. Now, I know that you live in Fort Worth, Texas with your hubby, Craig, hubby of 29 years, and you've got two adult children in their mid 20s. And Jen, my heart, my heartbeat is families and parents. It's what God's called me to, and as a parenting coach, I just know that alcohol, even this gray area drinking, has become such a huge issue for parents in our day. And I don't know about you, I'd love to hear, but when I was young and single and then dating and married, alcohol was not a part of my life. And in retrospect, I am so thankful for that because it was one less complication, one less thing to have to worry about and navigate. But in our day now, it's mind blowing to me how at every turn, whether it's a baby shower, a wedding, a funeral, a gray day, a sunny day, that it's always time for a drink. and, and my heart goes out to women who love the Lord, who are doing their best to be the wives and mothers that they want to be, but they are wrestling with how do I navigate this culture? And so tell us for a moment how this all began with you, Jenn. I mean, we know you because of your Sober Sis movement, and it is a movement for sure. But how did you express yourself before Sober Sis? Kind of, where were you then, and where are you now?
Yeah. Oh, wow, Denise. Well, I can really relate to a lot of what you just shared. And um, yeah, so here's just a little bit more about my story and my background. like maybe many of your listeners, not all. I know we all come from different places and different backgrounds, but I grew up in a really great family, really solid home life growing up, and went on to college in my hometown. Real adventurous there, and pledged a sorority, and really just did not find that alcohol was a part of my life either. It was certainly all around me, but again, I don't know exactly your age, but I'm guessing you and I are probably close-ish to the same age. You look great. You
Oh
look
gosh.
you look younger than
Oh,
I do. I feel like, so I don't want to date you in any way,
you
shape, or
are
form.
cracking me up.
Your
Well, I'm a
listeners cannot
grandma.
see Denise is looking extra great and young today. But I just turned a
Yay!
big 5'3", and so to date myself thoroughly, yeah, back in the late 80s, early 90s, really that whole decade, I agree with you. The society, the culture was not as alcohol centric as it is today. Alcohol's always been there, it's always going to be there. Um, but for me, it was just really small and low on my radar. So that was my experience. Actually, I got married in my mid 20s, started having kiddos and building a family, building a life, building a business with my husband Craig, like you mentioned. And we had not really met as drinkers, so we didn't really bring drinking into our early marriage. So
Wow.
I actually really started becoming a more social, regular drinker in my
Mm,
young 30s.
mm,
And I'm also grateful because when I do look back at my college years and even my 20s,
mm,
I was certainly navigating challenging things and doing hard things. The alcohol was not a coping tool that I used. It
mm,
wasn't something I used as like kind of a social lubricant to kind of like take away any social anxiety. My anxiety was more beneath the surface, kind of smoldering below. And it wasn't
mm,
until my 30s that it really started to show a little bit more. And that's
mm,
also about the time drinking came into my life. Um, Honestly, as just a social thing. It felt like at that point, kind of the thing to do. That's what other adult moms were doing. And I thought, okay, this is a different ball game than those college years or in my 20s. So that was just my experience. Was that
mm.
similar to yours at all?
That's so interesting that even through the college days and being in a sorority that would not have, but I think you're right. I think it's about generations and seasons and times. And so I was dramatically born again as a high school student. But even in high school, and I had great folks, like great parents that even though they didn't teach me so much about the Lord, about faith, but they were rock solid folks, and they were trustworthy people of character, and I never saw them drunk or abusing alcohol. So actually alcohol wasn't a daily part of our lives either. Wine-30 wasn't a part of my parents' lives, but like you mentioned, and we both talked about, so much media and all the different TV shows and social media and all, I think that's brought it to the forefront in a large way. And we could rabbit trail off on that for a while. But
Absolutely.
so actually it's kind of like you. I read in your forward in your book, and this was so precious. Um, it actually makes me tear up to think about it. But you said to your mother and father, you said, Mom and Dad, you're the ones who launched me from a little girl to the woman I am now. You gave me a steadfast moral compass and an example to follow. Thanks to you, my foundation is rock solid, and thousands of women have borrowed that strength so they could get their own footing. Oh, what an honorable, and as a parenting coach and a heartbeat for parents, that's what I want every one of you, our listeners today, to be able to have your children say about you. That you gave them a rock solid foundation. That's so telling about why I mean, we can't underestimate the power of
Yes.
our parenting, and your parents obviously, my mission is to inspire parents to raise extraordinary leaders, but my vision is generational, families generationally serving the Lord, and not the chasms we see so often today, but
Right.
generations together. And so I thank God that I had a good start. And then I got born again in high school. And so it really, our whole church culture was it was very conservative. And, you just, wine was a 4-letter word. And,
Right.
and some of those cultures can be very binding. I'm not into religion per se. I think
Right.
religion can create more issues
Can be a
for
lot
us.
of legalism out there.
There you go. And that
Yeah.
can foment all sorts of bad
Right.
habits. But for me, it was really where God had me, and it was so healthy, and it really bred good fruit in my life. And so my first glass of wine after I got born again at 16 was after my fourth child was born. And I mean, I was like in my 30s. And then it was just a very, very, my husband and I pastored churches for years, and we were always training leaders and traveling the world and taking our kids with us. And it was just, there was so much fulfillment in our lives, and there wasn't really a lot of time to even consider alcohol. It wasn't a part of the picture. But it's funny how as we're empty nesters and you get more time on your hands, and culture has changed, and now everywhere you go, it's happy hour this and happy hour that and girls night out. Then you find, and my friends my age as well, find it very much more accessible and attractive. And so that's really my story in a nutshell. And so many of my friends follow you now, Jenn. But as what I'm curious about then, so your children, when you were in your 30s, how old were your children then?
So they were like 4 and 5. They were
Okay.
just kind of almost at school age. In fact, part of my story is I've been a stay-at-home mom when they were younger, but at that point in time, my husband and I owned a retail store here in Fort
Wow.
Worth, and
Wow.
we were making some transition to basically change career paths. We had run our little ma and pa store together, but we're ready to move on to something else. So while my husband was kind of making a career pivot, I thought, well, wait a minute. I have a marketing degree. I'm a business minded, entrepreneurial type gal. I know I'll find a job, maybe network marketing or something in that world where I could be at home and flexible during the day and maybe just do some of my stuff in the evening while he's at home with the kids. And that's exactly what I did. And so, what that did was I was on the phone a lot during the day, which was a little tough to navigate when they got out of school, or actually we're just about to be in school, but just navigating kind of being a working mom from home before it was popular and everybody did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I would basically travel in the evenings to various hotel locations all over the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex and do these meetings, which were at times really stressful just to get the people there and do the meeting itself and build a team. And so what would happen is after those meetings is when it would be time to go to the bar, the happy hour, the
Mm,
unwinding.
yeah.
And that's how drinking really casually, kind of subtly entered my life. And like we mentioned, that was about the time, about 20 years ago, when the marketing and the messaging started really shifting in our
Wow.
culture more
Wow.
towards women and specifically more towards moms. And that's why I'm
Mm,
so privileged to be on your show today talking to
mm.
parents. Um, Especially with the what's called mommy wine juice culture, which is actually a mommy wine time. There's even a label, there's even a wine label called Mommy's Time Out. And it
Wow.
really promotes this idea that as a mom, as a parent, it's hard work. We all know it is. It's the most rewarding yet challenging work I've ever done. And I've done some challenging work now. That was definitely because you know that you're building a legacy. You know that you're investing in other humans that are going to go out and hopefully make their own mark on the world and build their own families. So
Yes.
you want to do it well, you want to do it right. And for me, I think the pressure and the anxiety teed up with the starting
Mm,
this new job and then having the happy hour. lined up and in sync perfectly with the new glamorized, encouraged
Mm,
mommy wine juice culture, which was you deserve it. It's your reward now. You've worked hard.
mm,
You've given, given, given. You've
mm,
shown up everywhere you're supposed to be.
mm.
And that's that detox to retox loop, or I even call it, living a divided life because I
Talk
was
to us
so
about that. Yes, I love that
mindful.
term.
Yes, I was so
Mm,
um, mindful by day. I mean, super duper responsible. I don't know if you or your listeners know anything about the Enneagram, but I'm currently studying it right now again, and I am an Enneagram 1. So
mm.
talk about responsible. Oh, yes, ma'am. So I'm getting it done. I am making the list and I'm checking it twice. I'm getting it done. And also trying to keep the peace and be everywhere and do everything.
Mm,
And I don't think I realized at that point in time how crucial it was as a mom to put my oxygen mask on first, to actually have
mm.
a regimen, a practice of self care. Because I had kind of thought, well, self care, that's like a spa day. Who has time for that? Or self-care, that's a little on the selfish side, don't you think? Maybe you'll do that later when you're an
Yeah.
empty nester. Right now, your job is mom. And
Wow.
and I don't think that I had a good balance looking back at
Mm,
self-care in a way that was life-giving. Now, I
mm.
associated once I discovered this elixir that could take away some of that pressure, some of that divided mind. And what alcohol did for me early on was it just quieted some of the voices inside, the voices of pressure,
Mm,
the voices of anxiety.
mm,
Um, and as a believer, as also someone who had, a really, since high school, really close walk with the Lord as well, it really put a lot of cognitive dissonance
mm,
in my
mm.
heart because I knew that God had more for me. And I was kind of, in Tim Keller's word, a counterfeit God. I was kind of settling for less. But to be
Mm,
honest with you, Denise, it felt so good in the moment. And I couldn't find
mm.
anything that had felt like that before in my life. And so,
Wow.
as a young mom in my young 30s, there I am getting it all done. And now I'm being encouraged. I'm
Mhm.
actually being told by society, the friends around me, which were kind of new friends to me, that this is normal. This is actually what we do. And so, like any
Mm,
new, like any new person to a new skill, call it a skill if you will, drinking. I actually had to practice becoming a better drinker in my 30s because I had not grown up drinking. Yes, I'd had a drink here and there, but not on a regular basis. So, quite honestly, I didn't really know my limits. I had not had, like you, a cautionary tale in my life of
mm, mhm,
watching parents or a
mm.
close sibling or anybody really abuse or overdo alcohol. I mean, there were the crazy college stories, and that was actually sobering for me to watch.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought, whoa, that looks kind of out of control. This is before Uber and cell phones. I don't think I want to get stuck at a frat house, stumbling around. That, for me, that looked frightening and that did not look appealing. So I think that actually kept me inadvertently, I didn't even mean to, a little bit on the straight and narrow, so to speak, because
Mm.
it wasn't that I wanted to drink and I was trying not to. I just didn't even know that it was there.
Right, right.
And so that divided mind, I think because I'd had a what I call a sober mind, really what the Bible calls the sober mind.
Mm,
1 Peter 5:8, be of sober mind. Why would
mm,
we want to be of sober mind? Why would we, as
mm,
believers, men and women, parents and all of us, why would we be encouraged to be sober minded? Because I believe we do have opposition. I believe we do have an enemy. And I believe
mm,
being sober minded is not about abstinence from substances as much as sober minded is about being awake, alert, aware, and present in our own
mm,
life. And that's why the name of my book is called Look Alive, Sis, because that's
mm.
what I mean. That's when I say look alive, I mean be of sober mind. And that sober mind feels aligned. there's an alignment there, mind, body, and
Mm,
soul, that feels like I'm not competing for something over here that is going to distract me. And so, again, I think for your listeners, we're not here to necessarily even talk about alcohol as much as that sober mind. And if you feel out there that, drinking is something that's distracting you or causing you to feel a divided mind, or just taking your presence away. I think so many times as
mm,
moms, we minimize, we underestimate the power of our presence. And that's what I was doing slowly through my 30s as my kids got older and they got into their teenage years and I got into my 40s. I turned 40 when my daughter turned 13. So you can see
mm,
see right there the culmination of a
mm.
lot of angst that can go along with both of those times.
Sure.
And I think that's when I started to realize, oh, okay, this has really shifted for me from just a social pleasantry, something that I just kind of look forward to here and there that might be kind of fun, to becoming a habit and a routine. And I am now counting down. I am counting down at that time to that wine o'clock and thinking,
Mm.
I will do a good job. I will do a good job even at wine o'clock, but I'm going to have kind of a mommy's little helper to make cooking and parenting and homework and projects and conflict resolution just a little bit easier. So I thought.
I love your honesty. Thank you for that. And I know those of you watching love that because we don't need polished performance. We need reality. And that's what enhances us. And I think when you use the term fully alive,
Yeah.
I think that I don't want to overestimate, but I think very few individuals I meet could describe themselves as fully alive. I think many of us in culture want an escape. And I think that Wine-30 affords that legal
Yeah.
escape. But something that you talk about the way that you articulate it, the detox or the detox to retox. Talk about that loop because I believe that so many of you watching out there probably have experienced this, and to hear Jenn talk about it, it's just you describe it very well, Jenn. What does that mean to you?
Well, I know it well because I was
Or
stuck
how does
in it
it
for
look?
so
Yes.
long. Yeah, it's real fresh on my mind, even after all these years of being free, because I was stuck in it for so long. And the detox retox loop to me looked like this. We'll just start in the morning. Okay, we're going to wake up. We're going to wake up with good intentions. We're going to wake up with, I'm going to slay the day. We're going to do this. But I know that I'm going to start with God first. So I would wake up and have a really great prayer time, meditating. I believe anybody who can worry can meditate. So I would start really meditating and focusing on, God's word and really find my hope and my strength there. We're
Mm,
starting off good. Um, maybe hit kind of a mid-morning workout. Now, notice I didn't say a 5:30 a.m. workout because we'll attach that to the night before. But I'd kind of glide into the gym, kind of, mid-morning, got the coffee going by then. I've had my quiet, my time with the Lord. I've had good intentions and get my workout in, usually something that's like super sweaty. I just want to like sweat it out. I've done yoga for many years. And so I'm like, if I'm
mm,
not sweating, I'm not working out. So I'd go find a hot yoga studio or a sauna. And, a little bit of sweating out is always good. And so then it'd be lunch and I would go find, my salad bar, juice, my green juice, got my kale going. And everything's on track. I'm checking the boxes, super responsible. Everything I'm doing is really in an effort to just cleanse cleanse my mind, body, my spirit. Everything's
mm,
about detox and health and mindfulness and
mm,
doing the right thing. And then and then about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, we all know that time in the afternoon. They call it the bonk for a reason, where you just kind of bonk. You just kind of hit a wall, the blood sugar drops. The good intentions start to kind of, fade away a little bit. the decision fatigue begins to set in. Because if you've been deciding and deciding and deciding all day over and over again what you're going to be doing, and just the regular decisions of life, do I buy this, that? I forgot what the number is right now, but there is some crazy number of the thousands of decisions every human being makes every day.
Wow.
Most of those are subconscious, but many of them are conscious choices. And
Mm.
so by 3 o'clock, the blood sugar's getting low. The good intentions, those were hours ago. It's starting to get pickup time for school. That means we're going to have some challenges. We're going to have some homework. We're going to have some conflicts. We're going to have some attitude. We're going to have it all. And
Mm.
that's about when I would be slipping into the grocery store to figure out what I was doing for dinner. That's part of my tips is how to move your day around to set yourself up for some more
Mm.
success.
Love it.
But at that time, I didn't even know. I was somewhat living on autopilot.
Sure.
And so about 3 o'clock, I was starting to think, maybe I would really kind of like a glass of wine tonight while I'm cooking. Just a glass, no harm, no foul. Just gonna have a glass while I'm cooking. But no, I really don't like stock it at the house because, again, good intentions. I may not drink that night. They were certainly to maybe skip a night or just drink on the weekends or only drink when I was out. I actually had a lot of rules around my drinking,
Mm. Wow.
um, which was telling to me now looking
Mm.
back that I was trying to manage
Mm.
or moderate my drinking. And for those of you out there that maybe drinking is not your vice or your crutch or your thing, or socially you're just not sure how to navigate without it, I get it. For some of you, it could be something else. But for me, I knew that I was starting to manage drinking a little bit, think
Mm.
about it more than I really wanted to. And that's when I knew drinking had a bigger hold on my life mentally and emotionally, really, than it did physically. I really
Mm.
let it into a spot where it was something I was thinking about even when I wasn't doing it, thinking about not doing it, thinking about doing it, thinking about doing it a certain way at a certain time. So talk about decision fatigue. So you
Wow.
walk into a grocery store, and here in Texas, we have alcohol pretty much everywhere. And so I would walk into a store. In fact, I counted one time at our local Target. This is not a sponsored ad for Target. Um, I walked in and counted, since I've been doing my work with Sober Sis, I counted 26 points of purchase for alcohol
What?
in the store. When I
What?
say points of purchase, that's a little marketing term where there are 26 different places in the store to buy alcohol, whether that's an end cap, the Prosecco by the blueberries, the red wine by the meat, the beer by the chips. I
Mm.
counted one time, and of course, when you walk in, it's whatever promo, July 4th, Mother's Day,
Mhm.
right? So I would
Mhm.
walk in and I would say to myself, no, don't drink tonight. Don't drink. Don't, don't do it. And again, I was just going to have a glass anyway. And so talk about decision fatigue. I would get up
Mm.
to the cash wrap. Boom. There it is. I'm there checking out. It's on the end cap there too. It's some kind of buy one, get one half off. Of course, there's the special. And I'm like, you know what? I deserve it. It's my reward. I've been a good parent today, right? I've done all
Sheesh.
the right things. I've been to the meetings. I've turned in the forms. My kids have great lunches. I'm listening to them in the car. I'm fully present. I'm all there. And
Wow.
I've got 5, 6 more hours to go from 5 o'clock, 1 o'clock. 5 more hours to go until bedtime. So
Wow.
I might need a little pick me up. I might need a little reward, a little treat for mom. Give mom a break, right? That's kind of how I looked at it. And I think many moms do. And so I was
Mm.
at the cash wrap. And Denise, I would end up buying a bottle of wine just to have a glass that I wasn't going to have. And the detox would start to switch to retox at about 5 o'clock. I could wait. I felt like that was like the appropriate time to
Mm.
socially acceptably begin to have a glass of wine while I was drinking, or with my husband on a date night or a book club, or a storm was rolling in. I mean, you name it. Like you said, there's a reason. There's 101 reasons I can think of back then to pour a drink, to celebrate. If you're sad, if you're bored, if you're lonely, you name it, or just, I mean, when in Rome. I mean, don't Italian people just have a glass of wine every day? I mean, maybe that was mine when I was cooking. So I could rationalize, I could justify. But if we go back to the morning, it was my intention to not. Why? Because it didn't align with my health goals. It didn't align with me
Mm,
spiritually because I felt for me, and again, the focus wasn't alcohol, is it right or wrong, good or bad. For me, I knew that it had become to have a place in my heart and in my mind that was occupying more space than
mm,
oftentimes the Holy Spirit was, because I could turn to a glass of wine and get
mm,
an instant, really temporary, but instant change in my reality. I could escape and eject from my own life, and I could bend for just a
mm.
moment in time. I could change reality. And if I didn't like my state of mind or the way things were around me, boop, I could just have a glass of wine. And I could literally, in my own mind, seemingly change things, even though nothing was changing at all. And yeah, so the detox to retox loop for me would start at 5 o'clock.
Mm,
And if you don't mind, I'll mention the bottle breakdown because I've described this a lot, and it seems to
mm.
resonate with a lot of women
Please do.
who cannot believe that they could find themselves in this situation. And if that's you out there, well, then my story might really resonate. I mean, I was in full time ministry after college. I went on staff with Campus
Wow.
Crusade.
Wow.
So, I mean, for me to go from super active in my sorority, really known as, Jen, the non drinker, to go into full time ministry, to having kids, to then describing what I'm about to describe in my 40s, you'd be like, what happened? Like, where did it go off the rails? And it
Yeah.
was subtle and it was slow. And to me, that is the
Mm,
sneaky part of
mm,
any vice or anything that ends up taking that place.
mm,
And so it was slow how it crept into my life. But
mm.
so at 5 o'clock, wine o'clock, I would proceed to open a bottle of wine to have a glass while I was cooking. Well, that was great and all. At 5 o'clock, I would pour it. I would have my little glass. Sometimes instinctively, I would kind of want to keep it a little bit on the down low, kind of not make it so. Because again, I didn't want to model a mom that was drinking in the evenings. So already right there, the cognitive dissonance, the conflict that I have inside is I want this, but I don't want this. I
Mm,
don't want to hide from anyone. I don't want to hide from my children what I'm doing. That feels
mm,
yucky, but I also
mm.
don't want to show them either. Oh no. Now what do I do? Well, I pour the glass and I kind of have it by the cookbooks. It's not just out there with like a big, light on it. So that's already like letting me know kind of where my mind and where my heart's at. And so I would have that glass of wine and I'd be like, there it is. There it is. There. Good job, Jen. You worked hard today. You did the workout. You did this. You did that. This
Mm,
is
yeah.
like your me time, your
Wow.
reward time. And you're still serving other people. You're still cooking the dinner. You're getting it done. And this is just going to make it a little bit better. And so by 5:30, and again, you can sip on a glass of wine for 30 minutes, or you can pace yourself. And so at 5:30, I'd be like, wow, okay, well now that's just now feeling good. It's only 5:30, Denise. I mean, come on, it's 5:30. If one feels good, maybe two will feel better, right? And
Yeah.
what happens over time for those of us who kind of find yourself in that detox
Mm,
retox loop where you're regularly drinking, whether that's out or at your home or on the weekends or most nights of the week,
mm,
what happens is you just start to build a tolerance. And when
mm,
you build up a tolerance, which we do with a lot of substances, coffee, sugar, is 1 cup of coffee going to do it? You might need two, right? So
mm,
very similar with something like alcohol. Of course, we know alcohol is an addictive substance. It just is as a substance. So it really does create this need for more of itself to get the same effect, to get
mm.
the same result. And I, at this point in time, did not know any of the science
Wow.
behind alcohol. I just think, well, one is good. I'll have a little bit more. It's only 5:30. I mean, we're not even eating until 6:30. So
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
just keep stirring my ragu and top it off a little bit more. Seriously, this is I'm bringing you in. Ladies, I'm
Love it.
bringing you
Thank
into
you.
the kitchen. Maybe I'm in your kitchen right now. Maybe that's what you're doing. I get it. And So I had to pour a second glass either while I was still cooking, or maybe I would have that second glass while I was eating. Because again, I'd seen that on the movies. I saw that on TV. The dad has his beer, the mom has her wine. They're sitting at the table with their 2.5 kids, and everyone's adulting or childing. And that's what adults do. So I'm buying in hook, line, and sinker. And so
Mm.
that was the second glass. That felt acceptable. That felt okay. Now, here's where that retox really comes in for me. It's that third glass. This is the bottle breakdown we're talking about here. The third
Mm.
glass. Oh my gosh. Okay, now wait a minute. I just bought a bottle to have a glass. I certainly had no intentions of drinking more. But now, too, that third one got me because that was the one that I could just have a little bit more. Again, the bottle's in the refrigerator door. It's just going down. And I'm going to have that third glass. Again, I'm eating, I'm drinking water. I mean, I'm like getting stuff done. We're
Yeah.
2 hours in the night easily, and I'm having a third glass. Why? Because I'm at the kitchen sink and I'm cleaning now, and everyone is scattered. Everyone's gone. I don't know if you felt that way in the mom zone, but I was like, where did everybody go? All of a sudden, everybody has homework they need to do. They need to be back in their rooms. He's worked hard all day. He may be in the man cave or in the garage tinkering around. I'm probably just going to do the dishes. Now I can farm it out and give everybody a job, but Enneagram 1 here in perfectionist recovery, I'll just do it myself. In fact, if I do it myself, I can play my own music and have another glass of wine, scrubbing the pots and pans, listening to my 80s music, thinking, "Oh my gosh, I'm feeling quote good in the moment, but I'm having a third glass of wine. And that is not my intention. That's not what I wanted to do. And at this point,
Mm.
I'm starting to play small. I'm starting to play small in my own life. I have shrunk
Mm.
down to
Mm.
not as available. I'm there, I'm present, I'm high functioning. You wouldn't necessarily know that I've had 2 or 3 glasses of wine because of my tolerance is building up over years of just
Mm.
drinking here, drinking there, always waiting till the appropriate times. Um, but I think that's when I really started to recognize maybe I don't really matter that much here. Like, does anybody even care? Does anybody
Mm.
even notice?
Mm.
Everyone's just kind of doing their own thing. Maybe this is my thing. And really, I think that's when I started to believe a lot of the lies that come around that point in marriage and that point as a mom. At that point, I've been married, let me do the math here real quick. I don't know, 16, 15, 18 years. The kids are
Mm.
getting older. They don't need you quite as much. I think that's
Mm.
not true. I think they need you more than ever. But the lies I think women and moms believe is, oh, I'm just kind of in the background. I'm just here to
Mm.
make life easier for everybody else.
Mm.
Or at least that's what I bought into. And so that third glass of wine was kind of starting to then kind of comfort me a little bit. Like, that's okay though. I'm here. I'm your companion. I'll make this easier. I'll make this more fun. You deserve it. Again, don't overthink it, Jen. This is your time. And then before I know it, Denise, I am looking at that bottle and there is this much left. For your viewers who can't see, you can see that I'm holding just about a little 4 ounce little line on my hand. And I don't know about you, but if you are at all a regular drinker of any kind, you know that that's probably not going to be enough to save for the next day because that's not, why would you do that? Like,
It's evidence against you, Jen. It's evidence.
yeah, it is evidence, Denise. It's absolutely evidence. And now I
It's gotta
realize,
go.
whoopsie doozy, I definitely have drank more than I intended. Remember, we started out with the glass by the cookbooks. Now I've got a bottle that's three-fourths gone in the door of the refrigerator. That is not going to work. That's not going to work for me. It's not going to work for anyone. In fact, maybe even no one even notices or cares. What if, and this is actually not only my thinking, but what I did, what if I just take that fourth glass? Now it's the bottle breakdown. I'm gonna pour the rest of that bottle in a glass. I'm gonna dispose of that bottle in a non-clinking way. Keep it down, because again, at this point, I've blown it. At this point in my
Yeah.
mind, I'm a bit of a failure because I'm a
Oh.
loser. Like, I just did not intend to
Mhm.
do this. And again, I'm high functioning. I'm not yelling. I'm not stumbling. I'm not slurring. I'm actually good.
Yeah.
on the outside, seemingly. I
Yeah.
think I am. I think my kids, now that they're older, would say, yeah, you just weren't as present, or yeah, your eyes were kind of, a little glazed over. But in my mind, I'm not bothering anyone. And I think
Mm,
that was that minimizing. I think that was that me shrinking down. And so
wow.
I would be like, well, the kitchen's closed, the homework's done. Y'all
Mm,
are older kids now, I'm just going to retire and go take a bath. And then that's when I knew, okay, oh, I did it again. I worked out today. I drank my green juice. I did all the right things. And I wasn't even going to buy it, Denise. And there I was in Target and 25 chances. And I said, no, no, no. And from the neuroscience perspective, my mind, my brain, our brains don't hear a double negative. It doesn't hear no, don't drink because it's not good for you. It hears don't drink. It really hears drink, is what it hears. Our
wow.
brains actually pick up on the word that you're focusing on not doing. So that's why you don't want to walk into a place anywhere and say, don't eat that, don't do that. You want to say what you are going to do. What are you going to gain? And so I didn't know any of this. This is why I'm so passionate about teaching other women these really practical tools. It just
Yeah.
to say that you're not a bad person. You're not even broken. Just your pattern is broken. And when you realize your pattern's broken and you're thinking, I write this in my book. You've probably read this. I didn't
Mm.
have a drinking problem as much as I had a thinking problem.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
Oh,
my thinking, that my belief system, my thinking, my beliefs from just the outside world, my beliefs about my internal world were just a little off. They weren't always off, but somewhere they got off. And guess what? You can get them back on. You can retrain your brain. You
mm.
can take those lies and you can replace those literally with the truth, and it can change your life.
I love it. And you have so many practical tools.
Yeah,
And so when you were finding that at the end of the day, alcohol always broke its promises to you,
that's
right?
that's
And
right.
it's sort of like, and then I'm sure the condemnation and the heaviness as you're going to
Oh,
bed and you wake up in the middle of the night and
yes.
so you're probably, what was that moment when it was like, okay, time out.
Enough's enough. Yeah.
Yeah, let this game of the detox retox. I totally hear what you're saying. What
Yes.
kind of, as you recall, what kind of helped you then to to jump out of that onto on,
Yeah, something had to give. Something had
yes.
to change. And you know what, Denise, for me, it wasn't a big rock bottom experience. I didn't get, a DUI, or I didn't have, people coming to me talking about my drinking. It was really more of an internal battle than it was an external something that caused me to want to change. It was this internal
Yeah.
struggle and mental tug of war that was wearing me out. It was wearing me down. I was
Yes.
so stuck and so uncomfortable being uncomfortable, but going nowhere. And so I was like, what if I could be uncomfortable and actually do something different with my life? And I think God, in His kindness and in His
Mm,
mercy, at that time in my life, knew that I was ready. And I think,
mm,
when the student is ready, the teacher arrives. And God's
mm.
allowed me to pay that forward and now be the teacher for others. But
Yes.
for me, at that time in the spring of 2017, my daughter had just graduated high school. She was kind of getting to make a new pivot in her life. She was getting to reinvent herself. We'd made it through that 13 to 18. For her was my 40 to 45. So I was coming up upon 46. And I thought, you know what? She gets to go off and do new things and kind of reinvent herself where people don't know her as she was in high school. She can go somewhere new. What if I could do that? What if I could start new?
We are going to pause this interview right here and call this part one. As Jen and I were talking, there was just so much rich content. Honestly, this has to be one of my all time favorite conversations at so many levels. And so, as I was just reviewing the tape and getting ready to post the podcast, I said, hold the phone. We've got to turn this into part one and part two. So I hope and trust that you've not only enjoyed part one, but that it has spoken to the deepest part of your hearts and spirit. And I just know that you're going to want to share this with friends and family, and hang tight because part two is going to be posted next week on Revolutionary Parenting with Denise Mira. Thanks for joining me today, and tune in next week. And if it's already in the month of August 2024 or beyond, then part two is coming up next. God bless.